When educators only look for the finished result, they spend most of their career missing the most powerful thinking that students ever do. Learning doesn't just happen at the end of an activity. It happens while children are trying, adjusting, and figuring things out. By paying attention to the process, educators can recognize different forms of thinking and intentionally support their growth. So what does this mean in real classrooms? Let's take a closer look at how the core foundations of thinking show up in everyday moments.
As an early childhood educator, you have likely watched a child nod along during a lesson only to forget it moments later. The difference shows up in what the child does next. You may read a book and briefly point out how sentences end. Later at the writing table, a student may stop to look at their paper, add a period at the end of their sentence, and say, "I need this, so it's finished." That moment of stopping, remembering, and fixing their work makes their learning visible. During Math Circle, you may be building a red, blue, red block pattern. When your students are given materials, one may line up bears in the same order, pause, and check their work compared to their peers. Another student notices a mistake and rearranges the pieces. Their comparing, predicting, and self-correcting shows active thinking at work. Those small pauses to ask, "What do you remember?" or "How did you figure that out?" help turn brief attention into understanding that carries into the next activity.
In a preschool classroom, learning doesn't happen because children are told what to do. It happens because they are actively thinking. For example, when a child is trying to complete a puzzle or build a tower and it keeps falling, learning occurs when they stop, think, and try a new strategy instead of immediately asking the teacher for help. That problem solving and persistence is thinking in action. As educators, we support this by allowing productive struggle, asking open-ended questions like, "What made you try that?" and designing activities without one right answer. We value children's thinking rather than speed or correctness. We empower them to become confident, curious learners.
One way metacognition is visible in a preschool classroom is when a child reflects on their thinking, like when they finish an art pattern and say, "I forgot how to write my name." Another example is when a child plans intentionally before acting, such as during block play when a child states, "I will first build the bottom, then build the top." Teachers can support the development of metacognition in many simple ways. One way is by embedding process-focused reflection prompts after centers, asking questions like, "When did you feel stuck?" or "What would you try differently next time?" to help them reflect on their thinking and problem-solving process. Another way to support metacognition in a preschool classroom is through intentional teacher thinking aloud language. For example, while working alongside children, saying things like, "This piece doesn't fit, so I'll try another one." These simple strategies support children's development of metacognition by making their thinking visible and teach them how to reflect, plan, and adjust.
Children's dispositions for learning become visible in their actions during everyday preschool classroom activities. For example, they are visible when a child working with a shape sorter realizes a shape does not fit, pauses, and tries a different approach, showing awareness that the moment calls for thinking. Dispositions for learning are also evident during whole group discussion when a child persists in raising their hand even after being passed over, continuing until they have had a turn to share. These visible examples of dispositions for learning are influenced to teachers' everyday actions. The following examples focus on simple ways teachers can support the development of dispositions for learning. For instance, as a child repeatedly tries to spin a hula hoop, the teacher acknowledges the child's persistence with a brief comment such as, "I see you trying again," while staying nearby and allowing the child space to keep trying. Teachers can also support dispositions for learning by promoting autonomy. One way this shows up is during reading centers, when a teacher steps back and allows children to choose books based on their interest, fostering independent engagement.
Emotions and motivations are essential in early childhood classrooms. This is seen when students feel safe and they are more willing to take risks for their learning. For example, they may volunteer to answer questions during group discussions like circle times. Their answers may not always be correct, but they are not afraid to raise their hands and try. Additionally, you see emotions and motivations in play when they share their thinking that is incorrect, but they do not feel shame or any embarrassment. Instead, they look to reflect on the mistake that they have made. As educators, we can support this by modeling mistakes. When we make mistakes out loud and show students how to reflect on them, students learn that mistakes are a natural part of learning. Reflection helps students learn from their mistakes, making them more confident to try again. By creating a supportive environment and modeling mistakes, educators can help students feel safe to take risks, reflect, and grow as learners.